All right, the hour of 7 having arrived, we'll call the meeting to order. All rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk has taken roll. We do determine a quorum. Council, before you is a prepared agenda. Any corrections, additions, subtractions? Approve as is.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. We'll move forward with the agenda. First order of business is Clerk Treasurer Van Hooley. We have the minutes from, let's see here. So we have the minutes from the meeting on the 3rd, the 17th, and then we do have executive session minutes.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes from those three meetings.
We have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Second, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those are approved. And then we have bills. Any particular items you want to touch on, Tracy, on that, or as presented?
I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Council, any questions? What is your?
Motion to approve the
We have a motion by Councilman Dorn. Approved. Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Alrighty. Thank you all. All right, into citizen participation. We have a few members of the community that wish to get onto the agenda here as presented tonight. So first we'll go to Mary Ann with the chamber update, please.
Awesome. Do I need to come to the front or can I talk a little?
I can hear you. You can hear okay?
Well, I just wanted to come because the chamber, we did our strategic plan, and one thing we identified is we have a great working relationship with the government entities, and we thought it'd be a great opportunity to come and invite you guys to our meeting. We meet once a month. It's the second Thursday of every month at 6:00 at the conference room at Bighorn Federal. So we're going to be meeting this Thursday because we do feel the lines of communication through all the different organizations needs to happen, and it has been happening for us all to be successful. So we just wanted to come and invite you guys, or a representative if you'd like. Bill, would you like to come back?
once a month.
Once a month.
Yeah, I'll come back.
Okay, so I'll see you Thursday night at 6:00 at Bighorn Federal.
All right.
Thank you. And that's all we needed to do.
Just come and twist arms. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. All right. So before Mr. Butch comes up and speaks, we have had some dialogue on what he would like to present tonight. He's promised it's going to be within about a 5-minute window. There is no action on this item tonight for council, but it does bring up the chicken conversation. So all we're asking, and all Mr. Butcher is asking, is that we listen to what he has to present, we digest it, and if community conversation comes from that, we can move forward on those sort of discussions. But at this time, I'll let Mr. Butcher come up and present to council.
Thank you, sir. I almost said amen twice tonight. I realized I hadn't really shared my heart on where the perspective comes from. So there's been a lot of, just in families and people, there's, I don't know if any of you are all married, communication is very key. So I thought I'd start out with that. And I don't mean to be impersonal or not to keep eye contact. I just want to, since the parameters are here, I kind of have a little script here. But I first want to tell a story. Just hang with me. I talk in rounds. I'll get there eventually, but within 5 minutes. But here, I just want to tell you the story of Hook Finn. Hook Finn, not the other guy, the Hook. He was born with hydrocephalus, led to being special needs with Parkinson-like symptoms since birth. Hook Finn comes from a divorced family, obtained a 1.78 GPA, Barely graduated high school, he then developed an addiction to alcohol and drugs that led to his heart stopping on methamphetamine at age 20. At age 24, he became homeless and was unofficially deemed schizophrenic by local shelters. After getting off the streets, he ended up in the military, where after the tour in Afghanistan led early to onsetting signs of PTSD and entered the ministry. Hook Finn now resides in Thermopolis, where him and his wife had combined net income of $14,000 for 2022. The last few years, he's taken up fishing for food and a sense of calm and relaxation. It was on one of these fishing trips where he had earned the name Hook Finn. He was sitting on the edge of the river wearing no shoes, with a stick pole, 12 feet of line that he had found in the tree, using guard worms for bait, and one sad smashed little sinker. When a local guide pulled up in their $35,000 truck, their $12,000 drift boat and combo trailer, several $1,000s of poles, fishing gear, all white, guiding two people who probably paid $450 to $650 for several days of fishing. While unloading, Hook Finn and this guide began to talk. This is when the guide asked if he kept any large ones. Hook replied, "Oh yes, I eat what I catch." The guide suddenly was bothered and said to him, "That's our livelihood." Whereas Hook responded, "That's my means of being alive." And so I bring that to attention because Hook isn't on the food giveaways or food stamps. He's not dependent on the VA or the 12-step programs, or he's not a repeat offender having a distant criminal record. And please check it after I get to the car. But he doesn't draw benefits, and he's more of a blessing than a burden and feeds many people. Hook Finn is not dependent. So livelihood versus life is a key issue with me on this thing. It's like now some of y'all are feeling the pressure with the price of eggs and chicken, but there was people feeling pressure 6-7 years ago when this first was presented. So life is existence of physical world. Lifestyle is what the guide was speaking about, and there's a difference. And so there's a difference between livelihood and lifestyle. A lot of what we've been hearing, argued on such hot topics as abortion or COVID could come down how it affects the person personally. And those are two hot buttons. That being said, chickens and our food dependency may not be an issue to most here in the room yet. For most of us can maintain a lifestyle without having these animals. Don't let the pressure feel about lifestyle with chickens and eggs cause you to finally say yes. Show people you feel what they feel by that may simply need just this to live. As often generals lose sight of the battlefield unless they see it through the eyes of enlisted men. The council must come down to where the people are to make the right choice in these matters. If we don't get this right, we will soon be on the same level anyway, and Hook Finn can teach Mr. Cabela's how to fish. Yes, chickens are a reverse Trojan horse to some degree, but if we reject them because of stigmatized outer appearance, we will miss all the good that can come from receiving them into our city. But like the original right side of the Trojan horse, its effects will also destroy a city, not by taking it in, but turning it away at the gates. It's just the principle, not necessarily the bird, though they are the living dinosaurs, and I think we should be a champion of them for that as I turn the page. And this is just half a page here. Why list dwarf goats, rabbits, ducks, along with chickens? Because somewhere in America, someone is utilizing all of them together to maximize the potential of their 1/10 acre. So yes, you can say yes to just chickens or remove all these from the town code according to the stipulations, or you can say no to one or all. I do believe if citizens within Thermopolis are given the right to utilize these animals, it would be for the overall good of the community. Say yes to implementing steps toward exploring its possible benefits by holding regulated civil public meetings. Say yes or whole in part to proposed limited urban agriculture presented in the packet that you see before you, or simply say yes to removing some or all of these animals from the town code. All the positive benefits have been proven over and over, while all negative effects have no substantial evidence even to be legitimate, especially to the level or degree they are presented. Are there negative repercussions from doing this? Possibly, but they aren't so guaranteed as some would infer. It all comes down to the fact that we have a new mayor, a new council person, new administrator, and look, Dusty's even still here, and he furthered the motion last time I was here. This is new day, and I mean Mr. Lewis, but in here,
No worries.
this is a new day and different time in our country and state. It's time to be truly independent and self-sufficient. How far is too far? Well, though I'd like to have a few draft horses and several buffalo on my 1/10 acre, they have not been proven to be successful. No data exists where they would be more of a benefit than a nuisance for what I'm proposing. Yes or no? To at least exploring these options, take the data. If you're not ready to implement these measures, have some public meetings, make a smart choice, and remember, These are limited and probationary requests. Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for having me. Sincerely, Hook Finn. Questions, comments, concerns, or complaints?
Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Butcher at this time? And if not, I'm sure you'd make yourself available should
Yes,
they
sir.
have questions as we digest this and contemplate what next steps may be. So
And thank you guys for hearing me. I know the story was extra bonus. My mom said, why is it in there? It's just kind of like, I don't suffer oppression. I actually lift people up all the time. And that's what my original, if we remember back in the day, of just feeding people, lifting people up from dependency. And it drives me nuts when I see it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's wrong to be involved in any of those programs or need the VA or anything. It's just like, I see the power of uplifting a neighbor, and chickens were an easy way to compost. And it just seems kind of crazy since then. But thank you for having me again. I know when you see my name, you think special thoughts.
well, we appreciate you coming. Thank
Yeah,
you
thank you.
for your time. Thank you for preparing that. We'll find out. All right. Like I said, there's no action on that one. We just allow Mr. Butcher to present. So, anyone else that was not able to get on the agenda by Thursday afternoon that would like to take 3 minutes and address council in any way, shape, or form?
Hi, and if you don't mind, may I approach?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Kim Bartlett and I'm here representing the Hot Springs County Democrats. Once a year, we have an annual nonpartisan community dinner. And it's just to bring people in the community together to have good food, a good time, and good conversation. And this year, our new mayor has graciously agreed to speak at our event. So I would like to just hand out invitations. You're all welcome to come. We hope you would be there. Last year, we had all 5 political parties represented, which was really fantastic, and everyone just had a lovely time. So, with your permission.
Certainly. All right, thank you. Thank you, Kim. All right. If no one else in the general public wishes to speak, we'll continue on with our agenda. There are no public hearings tonight, so we will go to town department reports, and we will go through here piece by piece. Everyone has Chief Cornwell's report that was provided to you. Any questions for the chief?
Nice job for so few people.
Do what?
Nice job for so
Okay.
few people.
Appreciate it. Yes, that's definitely deserved. Pass it on to your officers, please. Anything you'd like to add other than
There's like 3 or 4 things real quick. We're working on that rapid SOS, where most people now are using their cell phones to call 911. This program works with Google Maps and also through Apple and Samsung to track that person live when they're on their 911 call and it's still live. It tracks them where they're going, so we know exactly where they're at. We have problems weekly with 911 hang-up calls. We don't know where they're at, so it's hard for us to track them down. You know, we've had suicidal subjects in the past. It pings over at the water tower or over at the water shop, and they're not even close to the water shop. So this will let us get real live information. It also will, if you have emergency contacts and emergency medical information in your phone, it automatically downloads that to our dispatcher for next of kin, for a relative, your blood type, your all that kind of stuff. So that's a cool program. It's almost here. Tomorrow starts our meeting with the EMD. It's emergency medical dispatch, where every dispatcher will be trained in emergency medical dispatching. Somebody has a heart attack, they go to the heart attack page and they start asking all these questions. So they have all those answered before EMS even arrives on scene and can give it to the hospital before they get to the hospital. That one. Then I'm also working with Cody PD. I saw a really cool thing that helps us immensely in any investigation is video. Everybody knows that. If there's a crime in town, it's usually at Maverick. Not Maverick itself. They have the best video in town, and that's how we everybody in town goes to Maverick before or after a crime usually, and that's usually how we catch these people. What this program does, it's a way for us to have a list of people that have Ring doorbells, Nest cams on their houses, and what it is they would provide us with a list or their address, their name, and a phone number. And to be on this, it'd be like a detective list that if we have a crime in your neighborhood, we can come to you and say, hey, at this time, can you go back and look at your video? Tell us what kind of car, show us the video. In no way is this anything of us going into their lives, but it's for them to help themselves help us to car burglaries, stuff that happens that we're not there. We are short staffed, so we're one person driving around. There's a lot of people in this town. And then we just hired a new dispatcher, Crystal Faber. She comes from Worland and Washakie County. She worked there for several years. She went over to Bighorn County, and she comes to us with 14 years of experience and is very happy to be here. Right now, she's driving to and from Grable every day until they can move. So we started her on the 1st, and she's already up on the radio paging. And that's only within like 4 days. So we're excited to get her out. And then I've offered Miss Wagstaff, another dispatcher, to come out to animal control, nuisance, and dispatch. And she really took well to that idea. And that's how we're gonna get our nuisance control person. So
So you're fully staffed now in dispatchers?
yes, finally. Now I just got to work on the other end.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
That program that you were talking about at the beginning, would that have helped with that situation? And I talked about it that night, that there was, they called out emergency services and they didn't call our guys were closer, but because it switched over to their
They always-
911.
Well, yeah, they always have a problem. In
That
there.
happens a
Yeah,
lot.
so will that correct that kind of thing?
I don't know if it'll correct it, but it will hopefully with the satellites that it's going to be going to, you'll have better satellite reach than you do
Right,
than
so-
regular cell phone coverage.
Yeah.
I'm hoping because we get all them calls out on 120, 42 miles out or 40 miles out.
Mhm.
Tourists don't know where they're at
Right.
most of the time when they call 911. This, when they call on a cell phone, will ping it within, I think, 3 feet.
Cool.
So as long as they're on 911, they will continue to track it, and our dispatchers will be trained to keep them on the phone until we have everything that we need and we know exactly where you're at.
Awesome. Thanks.
So, anything else from you guys?
Council, anything else? Thank you. All right. Director Slagle's out. There is a report from your standard report from all those facets of public work. If you have any questions on those, we can certainly get anything answered. But
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
certainly,
I just want to compliment Mr. Slagle on the wonderful job he's been doing with snow removal. He's got his hands full. I just wanted to compliment him on that.
thank you. We really appreciate that, and Basil and crew and everyone there.
Yes, absolutely.
Looks like they're going to get it again tomorrow. So
Sounds.
instead of coating to an inch, so 6 inches we'll plan.
Is he gonna be here tonight?
No, he's out.
Okay, I just want to ask him a question.
And I can address one thing really quick. If you have specific administrative type questions, you can come to Jim for those sort of things because he can facilitate that conversation as well. So if you have those type of day-to-day operation type of questions, then definitely that's how we can deal with some of those as well, so you can get a more timely answer to those questions.
All right.
So then to town engineering, along with the theme tonight of presentations with no particular action.
3 minutes?
Yeah, we'll turn it over to
I'll give you my 3 minutes.
to Mr. Overfield.
All right, I think council, you received a memo from the mayor
earlier, or late last week, related to the meeting that we attended a couple of weeks ago with water districts surrounding Thermopolis and Hot Springs County, related in general to regional water. And there was an article in the paper that kind of gave a summary of that discussion. I was quoted in there a couple of times, related to Thermopolis's involvement in that process of the last couple of years. Tonight, I don't want to try to delve back into everything regional water. Some of us have been here dealing with it for 17 years or more. But I do want to bring your attention to a deadline that is coming up very quickly related to further study of a future groundwater source. So what I did today was I provided you with just a couple of pages from the last several studies that have been completed in our area. The first, and in the top right, it kind of explains which study it comes from. So the first 2 pages are from the study that we did for the town of Thermopolis in 2015. And I've highlighted the information that I want to bring to your attention, specifically related to the water plant. When we did this study in 2015, we identified some specific things that needed to be addressed at the water plant in 5, 7, and 10 years. And as I highlighted at the bottom on that first page, within the next 10 years, this was in 2015, we needed to start looking at the life expectancy of the of the water treatment plant. So 2015 to today, that's 8 years. So we're starting to approach the time when we need to make some decisions about what we're going to do with that water plant moving ahead. It's still operating in good condition. We're still making water like we always have. Capacity is still there, but there's just some specific things that will need to be addressed moving ahead. And the big unknown is what the EPA might do to us being all water users and water producers. There's a new set of standards that they've been hinting at for several years, but they haven't put into practice. And, that could come down at any time. So with that in mind, jump from 2015, when we told you we needed to look at this in 10 years, to 2018. So on the third page, this is a page from the study that was completed by Bighorn Regional and Dow Engineering in 2018. And on the bottom of that third page, I just highlighted where they referenced our study and said, this is something that's coming. We think that Thermopolis and the surrounding entities should be prepared for it. And based on that information on the fifth page, they put a cost to all of those items that we had highlighted may need to be addressed in 10 years. You'll see that highlighted on the top of that page. It says, it is estimated that the improvements needed to upgrade the water treatment plant will cost around $12 million. So that was a cost thrown at that list in 2018. So that was 5 years ago. The next page is from that same study, 2018 at the very bottom, prioritization of recommendations. It says, although there are still some unknowns with both sources, the following revelations were noted during the course of study and make the Lysite Mountain supply the most favorable source. I highlighted that just to point out that for many years, we've been battling over this Black Mountain well number 2 and what impacts that might have on the Big Spring. And it's really caused a lot of animosity between Bighorn Regional, Wyoming Water Development, State Engineer's Office, Town of Thermopolis, and the people that we provide water to. But in this study in 2018, they did a good job of summarizing kind of all of our positions on that. The following page says, the town is really concerned about Black Mountain well, and we would prefer that they looked at the Lysite Mountain site. The next one down, number 3, it says that Bighorn Regional also feels that Black Mountain well is probably not in their best interest, and they would also recommend that we looked at the Lysite Mountain site.
So then the last page of the information that I gave you is from a study that was completed in November of 2022. And the purpose of that study was to figure out what the options were to get water to all of the entities around Thermopolis if Thermopolis was not involved with the program. But towards the end of that study, my understanding is Water Development still wanted to see, what some of these numbers would look like and how this whole system could be pulled together with the town involved. So this page that I highlighted, the section in the middle, it says development of a southern water source in Hot Springs County is the number one recommendation from this study. As more users are added to the regional system in Hot Springs County, this will be important to develop a source on the southern end of the system. If Hot Springs County users are to be served by Bighorn Regional, the Hot Springs County users should agree through MOU or other agreement to assist in the development of a water source in Hot Springs County in the future. So back to my original statement that I'm not here to talk about regional water and working with everybody around, but there is a deadline coming up. If we are talking about the water plant or the future source of water for the town of Thermopolis, we're very quickly coming to the point where we're going to have to figure out how to either upgrade, replace the water plant, or look at another source. And if you read the article in the paper, my summary in the meeting with the regional group a couple weeks ago was, we've been told by the state for several years that Water Development does not fund surface treatment plants. So therefore, if we were to look at replacing the water plant or doing major upgrades to the water plant, we will not be able to take advantage of Wyoming Water Development's normal funding source, which is 67% grant, 33% loan. Aside from that, we would be looking at getting money from USDA, which is usually a 50-50 depending on your cost of living, medium household income, or maybe some state land funding, which everybody is going to state land funding for everything: water, sewer, streets, roads, everything. So that's not a likely quick solution. So with that in mind, what I said in the meeting a couple weeks ago was, as long as we're not being forced to join a group tomorrow and committing to a permanent debt, my recommendation at this time, which is the same as my recommendation to this board in 2018, is to find a way to support the investigation of that well to determine if it is a potential source. If it doesn't pan out, if the well is not of the quality and quantity that we need it to be, then that question is answered and we don't have to worry about it anymore. But if it is, then, it's right in the right timeline to decide what's it going to cost to get that water here. How does that compare to upgrading the water treatment plant? And then we can make some really good decisions about what to do next. So I bring this to you tonight because the application deadline to get a level 2 grant from the Wyoming Water Development Commission is March 1st. And I know that's going to be a topic of discussion at the meeting on Thursday with the working group. The level 2 funding is 100% grant. The state, if they choose to fund the project, they will work through this fall to select a consultant and get a budget and a contract in order. And then they would go to the legislature a year from now, next spring, and through the omnibus bill, they would get that project funded. And then they would issue a notice to proceed sometime in April or May of 2024. And they would move forward with a more in-depth feasibility study of that site and determine the best drilling plan to develop that well. And then they would move forward with actually funding the drilling and production of that well. So that schedule would push us out to the fall of 24 or the spring of 2025. Once that well is drilled and tested, we will know if it's a valid source or not. And at that time, the town or Bighorn Regional or some other joint powers board could choose to purchase that well from the state and move forward with a water project. So I guess what I'm asking you today is to consider moving forward with a level 2 grant application, either alone or with Bighorn Regional or with support to Bighorn Regional, depending on how this meeting goes later in the week. And, seeing if the state is willing to look at that source and determine what the viability is. There may be a $1,000 application fee, but when I talked with the state today at 5, when they called me back, they said that they may already have a project in the works with Bighorn Regional, and that fee could be waived. He'll have to check on the status. But are there any questions about that?
Other than the many, but any immediate questions for Mr. Holyfield?
So if we decide we want to go into the, you're saying it's gonna cost about $1,000 to get in? It's not gonna be like the last one where we were paying $3,600 a month for 1,000 years.
Right. When we had this discussion with Bighorn Regional and their engineer in 2018, that was this council's heartburn. Was we were being asked to sign up for a joint powers board as a member and start paying an EDU, and then we'd figure out what the plan was later. And I think this approach is better suited for your guys' current situation, as well as a smarter financial choice. Let's continue the working group. Let's continue the regional discussion, but let's see if we can get the state to find out if there's even water there for us before we have to start paying for something.
So the Thursday meeting, which was in my memo at 7:00 on Thursday, I encourage you to attend if you're able. From there, then we would probably need to bring some sort of formal action to the next council meeting if we wanted to be a part of that application, or there's going to be some well-known, well-educated attorneys on the matter at that meeting as well. So.
Yeah, and in 2018, I think there was a little bit of pressure. I know there was a little bit of pressure from Water Development to get the Joint Powers Board in place before we applied for that funding to go for to drill the well. I don't believe that pressure is still there because most of those individuals have retired.
The other thing that bothered me from the article in the paper, if we get into this now, they were talking about these different entities having one vote, and the town would have 2 votes, and that's all we would get is 2 votes on there, because we would be.
Well, I think it's really premature to start figuring out what that would look like.
Okay.
But I would say that before the town voted to join that group, we would need to make sure that all of your interests were well documented and dealt with in whatever agreement is put forward. You know, as I see it, if the water's there and everybody in the South Bighorn Basin decides to move ahead with this project, it's going to be the cheapest approach is going to be use whatever infrastructure we currently have that fits the system. And when I say that, what I'm saying is, the town's tanks up on the hill might be good for the regional system, or the Lucerne pipeline might be good for the regional system. So each one of these entities is likely going to have a piece of their current system that's going to be a benefit to the larger group. And we're going to have some discussions about who's going to take ownership of those, who's going to be in charge of maintaining and operating those.
Yeah.
And I think that's when we make sure that the town has their interests covered before you guys sign on.
Yeah, that was the thing that concerned me the most.
Mhm.
Does the water plant play into affecting this at all? I mean, if that was to come about, is the water plant just?
I would
gone
anticipate,
completely away?
well, timing wise, if this moved forward and everything worked the way that everybody hopes it would work, it's going to take 5 years to get it built. So I think that would change some of your maintenance program down there. Certainly change the timeline, so that we weren't putting money into it that was going to just be wasted. But no, I would think if you get a groundwater source that's of the quality and the quantity that meets everybody's needs, the treatment process for that water is going to be different than the treatment process at your water plant, and it'll be obsolete.
So there'd be no use of it at all.
Correct. Unless we were able to retrofit it into some sort of raw water system.
I just retrofit it.
You know, you still have 4 wells over there that, you know, we would still want to find a use for, a way to utilize those. So, you know, that might be a better solution.
All right. Any other questions? Again, I highly encourage attendance at that meeting so that we can hash out a lot of these things with.
That's just coming Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday at 7 at the county annex.
Oh, I'll be at the chamber meeting, so I won't.
I can have you out by 7 though.
Great, get you out of there quick. All right, well, thank you, Heath, for your time on that. I really appreciate it. And look forward to continuing that conversation.
Sounds great. And I did meet the new guy at Water Development over the phone today, and he's not completely up to speed on some of the history of this whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to set a meeting and go over that.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next would be town attorney. Unfortunately, Mr. Keller was not able to be with us tonight for matters out of his control. But I did ask him to look at a particular policy in our employee handbook. And you all should have gotten a draft copy of that change by resolution. So the intent of this, we felt it would be, so what it is essentially a different format of accruing. I'm not overly prepared for this because I was hoping Marshall would be here, but I'll do my best to get through what he put together for me. But anyway, looking at employees that come to work for Thermopolis or are already working for Thermopolis and have experience with other government entities. So for example, you have a police officer that maybe wants to move from Sheridan and has worked there for 5 years already. A lot of police departments and other municipalities are starting to offer like $5,000 sign-on bonuses. That's not something really feasible for the town of Thermopolis. So this was more of something to maybe sweeten the pot a little bit, but doesn't really cost us a ton of money right out of the gate. So essentially it has to do with accruing paid time off. So right now, Tracy, not to put you on the spot, but to put you on the spot, a brand new employee roughly accrues how many paid days off in a pay period?
Every pay period, there's 4 hours of vacation and 4 hours of sick.
Okay.
And the sick stays the same no matter how long you've been here. After 5 years, that jumps to 6 hours per pay period. And after 10, it goes to 8.
Okay. Thank you. So you see those different brackets. And so essentially, yeah.
Is pay period 2 weeks or a month?
Bi-monthly.
So, so essentially, if someone, I'll just use the PD as an example. Chief's not his head, so that's okay. Someone, let's say Sheridan or whatever, wants to move here, has been on the job for 5 years. Instead of coming here and starting at 0, they can come here and start accruing paid time off as if they've been here for 5 years. So that's what this is about. We also can use it as a retention tool for any employees that we may have that want to seek that. So that would meet the criteria in that resolution before you. It's not a town ordinance. It is in the policy handbook, so it would be done by resolution here tonight. I can answer any questions to the best of my ability. From what we put forward, if you have any. Otherwise, I would look for any discussion on it.
Just to recap, so it's going from 4 to 6.
If you meet that criteria of having worked for another agency. Yep. And it's got to be in the public sector. It's got to be that you work for a county road and bridge, and then you came to our roads crew. You worked dispatch somewhere, and now you're dispatch here, or that sort of thing.
Does that affect their seniority at all, or is it just purely on vacation?
Tracy, would you be able to field?
There really isn't seniority. You're hired for a certain position, and then sometimes, like in the police department, you move up, and that has no bearing on your accruals for a vacation.
So it's strictly for paid time off, and that is, again, that was so that it's something to sweeten the pot, but not to cause Tracy any great grief in budgeting and trying to make those things work. So, any other questions? Seeing none, we would entertain a motion.
Just Pat, you have something, Pat?
I had talked to the mayor. We had talked about it pretty extensively. I've been trying to hire 3 police officers for the past 6 weeks. It's hard when people are getting $5,000 bonuses in Pine Bluffs, Wyoming, for a small town. It's hard to draw. So this is a way for me to help recruit those that are 5, 10-year, 15-year employees to come to our department and say, I can't give you the $5,000 bonus, but you can accrue at 6 hours a paycheck or 8 hours a paycheck if you come to us. In our job, we want the time off. That's all there is to it. By the time we get 7, me, Mike, Jessica, and Dude are going to want to take time off. So it's just a recruiting tool for us.
If I may, just a brief question. Is this credit due to service accrued elsewhere limited to just in-state service or beyond?
I wouldn't, because we had that discussion, so it's a fair question. In all of this, and you may find that there are people that are wanting to move here and become great people as a part of our state and help our town out by working here. So we didn't want to limit that to only Wyoming. It's not like if someone comes and works somewhere and had Wyoming retirement, it can kind of just move right over. So it's not similar to that. Yeah, we leave that open to anybody coming here with some work in a public entity. So
Thank you.
all right.
My only thing with that is drawing that line with a public entity or a valuable skill or something is maybe hard to discern. Who would everybody, how do you decide who qualifies, I guess?
That is fair. So I think the intent of this resolution before you would be that it would be more or less an apples to apples. So you're bringing your road and bridge experience, but if you're going to be all of a sudden becoming a dispatcher, that might not. So that's why Marshall wrote it. He left it as a case by case so that we can assess that. But it is about you're bringing that valuable skill set. So that's really where that would be.
Mr. Guy, what about military experience? 'Cause oftentimes, like what I did, would transfer into credits in college, or like an MP, getting out of the military, wants to retire, and go to Vermont. That might be an idea as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is included in that
Okay.
case by case conversation. So,
So
yep. All right, council. Any other discussion on that or questions? Would entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to.
We have a motion to pass the resolution by Councilmember Lewis, second by Dorman. Any discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion fails. Thank you all. And that will be effective tomorrow morning. Start business tomorrow. So. Alrighty, and Mr. Keller did not have anything else to pass along when I talked to him this afternoon. So, codes administration, Mr. Genome and I talked a little bit. There wasn't much on the codes administration side. Was there anything you wanted to add on for tonight?
Not as today.
Okay. And administration, same thing. I do want to make two things. I have started reaching out to look at the possibility of streaming our meetings. There's becoming more and more demand for people to be able to see the meetings live, if not live, and then to be able to catalog. I also want to welcome one of our newer media outlets in town, Hot Springs Spotlight, correct?
Yes, thank you.
So they're here and they'll be documenting our meetings and cataloging them as well, so people will have a place to go and see those. So some things that are happening here, but I will be eventually bringing some to you about the live streaming. It's much more simple than I thought it would be. So I think it'd be a good service, and especially for people who can't get out of the house and make it down here to be at least seeing what's going on. So that's something in the works for me for mayor and administration. So council members, anything else to wish to add to the meeting tonight?
Thanks to our town crews for all they're doing.
Absolutely. Here. If there's nothing else, entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Second, that's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Yes.